The night in Lothlórien was quiet and soft. As if the entire forest was holding its breath, silver moonlight flowed down through the tall golden leaves and painted the ground with a soft glow. The air was cool and gentle, yet something heavy moved within it, like a hidden warning. Through this quiet night, a human walked alone with slow and weak steps. His clothes were torn, and his skin carried deep cuts that looked fresh and painful. He was not from this land, and every step he took showed that this place was strange. To him, the forest did not welcome humans easily. The elves were watching him from high branches with sharp eyes. They did not speak, and they did not move. They simply observed him like silent shadows blending with the trees. Each elf felt confused because humans rarely reached this sacred land, and if one did, it usually meant trouble. Yet this human did not move like an enemy. He moved like someone running from something far worse. He staggered to the wide side and almost fell, but pushed himself up again. His breathing was hard, and every breath was like a small battle. He looked around as if hearing something behind him, but the forest remained still. It was not danger that made him tense. It was fear, not fear of the elves, but fear of what was chasing him before he entered this land finally. His strength failed him, and he walked toward the sound of falling water. The silver falls stood tall and bright, like a river of light flowing from the rocks. The pool below, it shimmered like liquid moonlight, and the mist around it danced like small ghosts. The human reached the edge and dropped to his knees. He touched the water with shaking hands. For a moment, his face softened because the water felt warm and alive. It was the first gentle thing he had touched in many days. From the trees, to elven warriors stepped forward silently. Their white cloaks made them look like living pieces of the moon. Their bows were raised, but their hands did not release the strings. They saw the human was tired and hurt. They waited for him to speak, but he did not say anything. Then one elf whispered to the other, "Why is he here? How did he enter our lands?" No human can cross the borders without being sensed. The human heard the whisper and slowly lifted his head. His eyes were not normal. They were full of something old, something heavy, something that did not belong to a simple man. He tried to speak, but his voice broke. He tried again and managed to say one single word, a name. It was a name so ancient that the trees themselves seemed to react. The leaves trembled, even though there was no wind. Both elves froze in place with wide eyes. No human should know that name. No elf had spoken it for many ages. It belonged to someone who vanished long ago. Someone powerful, someone feared. The human fell down again and placed his forehead on the ground. He looked like someone begging for help, but the elven warriors did not move. They were trapped between fear and duty. They had to capture him, but part of them wanted to step back because of the name he spoke. At that moment, the forest changed. A soft hum rose from the silver falls. The water glowed brighter. The mist around the human thickened. It wrapped around him like a living sheet of light. The elves watched in disbelief as the water touched his wounds and closed them slowly. It was healing magic that no human should be able to receive. Yet the forest itself accepted him. The human breathed out and whispered another word, not a name, this time a plea. "Help me." His voice was weak, almost gone. But the sound carried far. It reached the deeper parts of the forest, where older beings listened. Somewhere far within the woods, an ancient branch cracked like a reply. The elves stepped backward without thinking. Something greater than them had awakened. The human collapsed fully on the ground. His eyes closed, his body stopped moving. One elf lowered his bow and whispered, "We must take him to the queen. She will know why the forest itself protects him." The other elf nodded, and they lifted the unconscious human carefully. The silver falls shimmered brighter, as if watching him leave. As they carried him away, the leaves moved again, not from wind. Something unseen walked with them, guarding the stranger who should never have entered this land. And so the night in Lothlórien changed forever, because one human spoke a name no human should know. And the forest answered. The human woke in a soft golden light that felt warm like morning sun, even though it was still night in Lothlórien. He opened his eyes slowly and found himself lying on a bed made of woven leaves and silver threads. The room around him was Inside a great tree, and its walls glowed gently, as if light lived inside them. Everything was quiet, yet peaceful. He did not know how he reached this place or who brought him here. He only remembered the silver falls, the ancient name he spoke, and the elves who watched him in fear. He sat up slowly, feeling the strange energy still moving in his body. His wounds were gone, his pain was gone, only a soft ache remained like a memory of suffering. He looked around and saw no weapons, no chains, and no guards standing over him. But he knew he was not alone. He could feel eyes on him from the shadows of the golden leaves above. An elven healer walked into the room. Her steps made no sound. Her face was calm yet distant, as if she already knew everything about him. She placed a small bowl of glowing water near him, but did not speak. The human tried to ask a question, but she raised her hand gently, asking him to remain silent. He obeyed without understanding why. After a moment, another elf entered, a younger one, with bright eyes full of curiosity. She looked at the human not with fear, but with wonder. She waited for the healer to leave, then stepped closer and whispered softly, "Do you remember the name you spoke?" Her voice trembled slightly. No human should know that name, and no elf has dared to say it for a long, long time. The human frowned, trying to recall the memory it felt. Faint like a dream, he did not know why he spoke it. He only knew it was the only word he could reach when he was falling. "I do not know what it means," he answered in a quiet voice. The young elf stared at him for a long moment, as if searching for truth inside his eyes. She finally spoke a secret the elders forbid anyone to say. "You carry the scent of Nimrodel, the lost river spirit." The human blinked, confused. He had never heard that name before. The elf continued, "Only one who is touched by her light can survive the Silver Falls healing. Only one who walks with her blessing can speak that ancient name without being destroyed." Before the human could reply, the golden leaves above them rustled suddenly. There was no wind, no breeze. Yet the leaves shook hard, like something invisible passed between them. The young elf stepped back with fear in her eyes. She looked around quickly. "Do you hear that the forest is whispering again? That only happens when danger is near, or when something powerful is waking." The human listened. He heard soft murmurs, like voices hidden inside the trees. They were not speaking any language he knew, but somehow he felt them calling to him. It was like a memory. He never lived a connection. He never asked for a bond. He never understood. The door to the room opened without sound, and two tall elven guards entered. Their silver armor shone like moonlight. They looked at the human with a mixture of caution and respect. "You must come with us," one of them said. "The queen requests your presence." The young elf hesitated, then whispered one last warning. "Be careful. The forest reacts to you in ways it should not. And if the queen fears what you carry, no one will be able to save you." The human followed the guards through the hallway of glowing branches. Every step felt heavier, as if the tree itself was breathing around him. Voices whispered from the leaves. Some sounded curious. Some sounded afraid. Some sounded angry. He did not know if the voices were real, or only in his mind. As they walked deeper into the great tree, he passed by other elves. None spoke. None smiled. Some bowed their heads slightly, but others stepped away, as if avoiding a curse. He felt their fear growing stronger with every gaze. They were not afraid of him as a man. They were afraid of what the forest believed he was. The path led them to a large opening where a balcony extended over the glowing forest. Golden lights floated in the air like fireflies. From here he could see the Silver Falls in the distance, shining like a river of stars. The guards stopped, and one of them spoke. "Wait here. The queen will arrive shortly." The human stood still, listening to the whispers, growing louder. Then a sharp voice echoed in his mind. Not spoken by an elf, not spoken by a person. It came from the ancient trees themselves. "Why have you returned?" Guardian of the last light. The human froze. He did not know what the words meant. He did not know why the forest spoke to him, but one thing was clear. He was not just a lost traveler. He was someone the entire land had been waiting for, or fearing, and the real truth was just beginning to wake under the golden leaves. The balcony where the human stood felt like a place between worlds. Below him, the forest glowed with quiet golden light, and above him, the sky shimmered with silver stars. Yet something darker moved inside the beauty of Lothlórien tonight, something that watched him with an unseen gaze. The whispers in the leaves had not stopped since he arrived. Some were soft like a lullaby, but others were sharp like a warning. He tried to breathe deeply, but the air felt heavier the longer he stood. The guards behind him stood silent. Like statues, they did not look at him. They did not speak. They simply waited for the queen, but they too could feel the forest shifting the Sunday. Branches moved without wind. The stars flickered as if reacting to a hidden presence. Suddenly, the human felt a low hum rising from the ground beneath him. It pulsed like a heartbeat, not his heartbeat, something older. Something that lived inside the roots of Lothlórien itself. The sound grew louder, and the whispers formed into a strange melody. Melody that sounded like a song that seemed to call his name, even though no one knew his name. He stepped forward slowly. His feet moved on their own, as if following the unseen voice. The guards saw him move, but did not stop him. Perhaps they too felt that the forest was guiding him. Perhaps they feared interfering with whatever force was calling him. The balcony opened into a long bridge made of silver wood. The human walked across it, in silence. With each step, the singing grew clearer. It was beautiful yet haunting, like a memory he never lived, yet somehow knew. The song came from the deepest part of the forest, from a glade untouched by time. The moment he stepped off the bridge, the trees parted gently, as if welcoming him. A narrow path opened beneath the golden leaves. He followed it without hesitation. The forest around him glowed brighter. Even the air felt alive. He could feel eyes watching him, but not with fear. It felt more like sadness, as if the forest remembered someone. He reminded them of the path led him to a silent clearing. A circle of ancient trees stood around a small pool of crystal water. The singing echoed softly above the surface. He approached the pool. Slowly, the water did not reflect his face. Instead, it reflected a shadowy figure of an elven woman. Her form was faint, like mist, yet her presence was powerful. Her long hair moved like strands of light, and her eyes glowed with a deep, ancient sorrow. The human felt his heart tremble. He knew her. He did not know how, but he knew her. She looked at him with the expression of someone who had waited for centuries. Her lips moved, no sound came, yet he understood the message in his soul. Do not let the light fade. He stepped toward the pool, but the shadow woman raised a hand in warning. Her eyes turned sharp. Danger is near, she silently spoke. They are coming. The trees behind him shifted. The guards who followed him earlier stepped into the clearing. Their eyes were wide with fear. We are not alone, one of them whispered. Something followed us before. The human could react. The shadow figure in the water changed her form, twisted into smoke. And the beautiful melody turned into a harsh shriek. The water turned dark for a moment, then cleared. She was gone. The forest fell silent, completely silent. Not a leaf moved, not a whisper remained. One guard stepped forward. What did you see? The human did not answer, because he did not know how to explain it. Even he barely understood what he witnessed. Then, the air behind them shifted. A cold presence spread through the clearing. The guards raised their weapons. Something moved in the shadows between the trees. Not a person, not an elf. Something else, something that did not belong to this land. From the darkness, a figure crawled forward. Its shape was wrong, its limbs too long, its skin too pale, its eyes empty like hollow voids. It let out a low screech that made the trees twist, as if in pain. The guards prepared to fight, but the creature ignored them. Its empty gaze locked on the human, as if he was the only one it recognized, as if it had been hunting him for a long time. The human stepped back. His heart racing. He did not know what the creature was, but he felt its hatred like fire, and he felt a strange pull inside himself. A deep instinct, like something waking up inside his blood. The creature lunged, but before it reached him, a burst of golden light erupted from the trees. The creature screamed as the light wrapped around it like chains. The human felt the same light burning inside his chest. He fell to his knees, gripping the ground. The guards stared in shock. The forest itself was protecting him again. But why? The creature howled one last time before vanishing into smoke. The clearing grew quiet again. The golden light slowly faded and the human breathed weakly, trying to understand what happened. One guard finally spoke. "You saw her, did you not, the woman of the lost glade, the spirit who vanished long ago?" The human nodded slowly. He had no words, but the truth was clear. The shadow woman knew him. She warned him, she feared for him. The guard swallowed hard, then whispered a final question. "Who are you to be called by a spirit and hunted by a shadow in the same night?" The human did not know the answer, but the forest did, and soon he would too. The forest stayed silent after the shadow creature vanished. Even the smallest leaf refused to move, as if the land itself was waiting for something to happen next. The human stood there, catching his breath, while the two elven guards watched him with new fear and new doubt. They had never seen a creature like that enter Lothlórien. They had never seen the forest defend a human, and they had never seen golden light rise from the trees like living chains. One guard stepped forward and spoke with a tense voice. "You must come with us now. The queen will decide what must be done." The human nodded because he had no strength to argue. His body felt heavy and his mind felt broken in pieces. He kept hearing the voice of the shadow woman inside his head. "Do not let the light fade." He did not know what light she meant. He did not know why she showed herself to him, but he felt she was connected to the ancient name he spoke at the Silver Falls. The guards guided him deeper into the heart of Lothlórien. Golden bridges stretched between massive trees. Whispers followed them with every step. Some whispered danger. Some whispered prophecy. Some whispered welcome. The human felt the forest reacting to him like a living being. He touched one of the ancient trees as he passed. The bark warmed under his hand, as if greeting an old friend. Finally, they reached a great open hall, woven entirely from branches of living trees. At the center lay a wide pool of glowing silver water. The moon pool, the place where truth was uncovered and lies were destroyed. The Queen of Lothlórien stood beside the pool. Her presence was calm yet powerful, and her eyes carried the wisdom of ages. She looked at the human with a silent question, not fear, not anger, but a deep sorrow, as if she already sensed what he carried. The guards bowed before her. "My queen, this human entered our land with a name that should be lost to time. The forest reacts to him. A spirit appeared before him, and a creature from shadow crossed our sphere borders to hunt him." The queen lifted a hand and silenced them. Her gaze stayed on the human. "Step forward," she said gently. "Let the moon pool speak." The human walked toward the shining water. His heart shook with fear. What if the pool revealed he was a danger? What if the pool claimed he was cursed? He knelt beside the water, and the queen spoke again. "Place your hands upon the surface. Let the truth show itself." He slowly placed both hands into the silver water. The pool shimmered, then glowed brighter, then exploded with visions. He saw a battlefield under a red sky. He saw himself not as he was now, but armored in glowing silver plates. He carried a blade made of pure light. Elves stood behind him as ally shadows rose against them. He fought them alone, while the elves chanted words he could not understand. Another vision came. He cradled a small child with golden hair, the same hair color as the lost spirit woman. The child touched his forehead, and light flowed into him. Her voice echoed, "Guard the last light, do not fail again." The human felt his chest tighten. The visions kept pouring. He saw himself falling into a river of stars. He saw himself dying. He saw himself reborn as a human many ages later. He saw the shadow creature crawling through ages, searching for him, hunting him, waiting for the moment he returned. Suddenly, the pool turned dark. All light vanished. Then a single bright rune appeared on the water's surface. It glowed like fire. The elves gasped. The queen stepped back with wide eyes. That rune had not appeared for 1,000 years. The human pulled his hands back, trembling. The queen whispered, "You are not a simple man. You are a guardian reborn, a protector from the first age." the last keeper of the ancient light, your soul, carries the memory of Nimrodel, and the shadows fear what you once were. The human shook his head. I do not understand. The queen nodded slowly. You will. The forest remembers. The spirits remember. The shadow that hunts you remembers, but you have forgotten your own past. She stepped forward and placed her hand gently on his forehead. A soft glow spread from her fingers. You carry a gift that should have died long ago, a gift only one spirit could give. Nimrodel touched your soul. She marked you as her guardian. Her return depends on you. The human felt a wave of heat inside his chest. A piece of memory. Awakened, he saw the shadow woman again. Her eyes filled with sadness. Her voice echoed, you must not let the light fall again. The queen stepped back, her face serious. We must protect you, but the danger is already here. The shadow that hunts you will not stop, and the forest itself is waking because of you. The big human looked down at his trembling hands. He did not want this destiny. He did not want this power, but the pool had revealed everything. He was no stranger. He was the return of a forgotten guardian. The queen spoke one last time. Prepare yourself tonight. The shadows move again, and you must face what you once were. The moon pool still glowed faintly behind the human as he stepped out of the great hall. His hands were shaking with memories he did not fully understand. The queen watched him leave with eyes full of worry. The guards kept a careful distance, as if unsure whether to protect him or fear him. The forest whispered around him like a living storm, trying to speak in a language he could not hear clearly. He walked along a narrow path of silver roots, feeling the ground pulsing like a heartbeat. The night was deeper now. The air colder. The golden glow of Lothlórien seemed dimmer, as if the land itself sensed something terrible coming. The human felt it to a strange heaviness in the air that pulled at his chest like a warning as he reached the lower grove. He saw elves gathered with tense faces. They stepped aside to let him pass. Their eyes were filled with fear and confusion. One of them pointed toward a tree that stood in the center of the grove, a tree older than the queen, a tree from the first age. The trunk was cracked, and from the cracks flowed a thick red liquid. It dripped down like tears. Trees in Lothlórien never bled. They never cried, but this tree wept like a wounded heart. The elves whispered silently, this is a sign of ruin, a sign of awakening. The human stepped closer. The moment he touched the ground beneath the crying tree, the red liquid stopped dripping. The windless of the forest quieted. Even the windless leaves seemed to hold still. The elves gasped softly. As if unable to believe what they saw, the elder of the grove approached him with slow, heavy steps. He carried a staff of silver wood, and his eyes were filled with ancient knowledge. He spoke with a soft tone. Only one touched by the spirit of Nimrodel can calm the bleeding of the root. Only one who carries her light can silence the sorrow of the trees. The human felt overwhelmed. He never wanted to be a savior or a guardian. He wanted simple peace. But fate had dragged him here with purpose. A sudden tremor ran through the ground. The tree shook without wind. The air turned sharp like the breath of a predator. Something dark moved beneath the soil. The elves raised their weapons. Something stirs below the roots. The elder said something old and angry. The human stepped back, but the ground burst open in front of him. A wave of black vines shot upward, twisting like living snakes. They lashed at the elves, dragging one to the ground. The others cut the vines quickly, but more rose from the earth. The forest cried out with a deep haunting sound that echoed through the night. The human felt a pulse inside his chest, a memory of the spirit woman. Her voice returning, do not let the light fade. He stepped forward without thinking. His hand touched the bleeding tree. A surge of light exploded from his palm. The vines froze. The earth trembled. The ground cracked open, revealing a hollow pit beneath the tree. Inside the pit, something moved, something shaped like a shadow with burning white eyes. The same creature that hunted him, but larger, stronger, not bound by any shape. The elf elder shouted, it is a shadow guardian, a twisted reflection of what you once were. The human felt his heart twist, a reflection, a broken version of himself, a mirror born from darkness. The creature stared at him. It let out a low sound that felt like a cry of hatred and sorrow mixed together. Then it charged the elves, attacked from both sides. Their blades of silver light cut through the vines, but could not harm the shadow creature. It moved through the air like smoke. Its claws struck the ground, sending waves of black energy. The human backed away, but the shadow followed him. Ignoring the elves, ignoring everything, its focus was on him alone, as if drawn by fate. As if they were two halves of the same forgotten story, the human stumbled against a root and fell to the ground. The creature leaped at him. But once again the forest intervened. Golden light burst from the tree's branches, moved on their own, wrapping around the creature like chains. The shadow screamed, twisting violently. The forest strained to hold it. The elf shouted for the human to move, but he could not. The sight held him. Frozen, the creature broke free of the branches, but not fully. It turned its empty eyes toward him. Its voice echoed inside his head. "You failed once, you will fail again." The human felt the words clawing into his mind. Images flashed: battles, fires, screams, a fallen spirit, a dying child with golden hair. He fell to his knees. The pain too heavy, the shadow creature vanished into smoke again, leaving behind a circle of dead roots. The grove fell silent. The elves lowered their weapons in fear. One whispered, "The forest chooses him, but the shadows hunt him. He carries both light and doom." The elder placed a trembling hand on the human's shoulder. "You must reclaim your forgotten power, or this land will fall because of you, and so will you." The human stared at the bleeding tree, now silent, now still, and he felt the truth. He was not being hunted simply for what he was now. He was being hunted for what he had been, and that past was coming back to life. The night grew darker as the human followed the elder away from the bleeding grove. The elves moved silently around them, whispering with fear. Heavy in their voices, some looked at him with hope, but most looked at him with doubt. The forest itself felt restless. The golden glow that once filled Lothlórien now flickered like a candle fighting the wind. The human felt the weight of the visions still burning inside his mind. The shadow creature, the memory of a fallen child, the voice of the lost spirit, everything twisted inside him like forgotten pieces of a broken soul. The elder led him into a deep chamber beneath one of the oldest trees in Lothlórien. The entrance was hidden behind thick roots that shifted aside only when the human approached. The elder watched this silently. "The forest accepts him," he whispered. It was not praise, it was fear. Inside the chamber, the walls glowed with soft moonlight. Silver runes covered the roots and branches, forming patterns older than any living elf. At the center of the chamber stood a stone pedestal. On it rested a small relic wrapped in threads of light. The relic pulsed faintly, like a sleeping heartbeat. The elder bowed his head. "This is the last light of Javanna, a gift from the first age. A seed of creation, a spark of life. It has been sealed for many ages, waiting for the one who once carried it." The human stared at the relic, feeling a strange pull from it, as if it remembered him, as if it was calling him home. The elder looked at him with tired eyes. "You were once its guardian. You carried this light into battle. You defended it through ages until the shadows tore your soul apart. Then the spirit of Nimrodel saved what remained of you. She sealed your soul into a new life, hoping you would return when the shadows rose again. Tonight they rise, and so must you." The human felt dizzy. He touched his chest, where the golden warmth throbbed quietly. So the visions were true. He had lived another life. He had died. He had returned. But the price was that he remembered nothing. Only fragments, only echoes. The elder stepped aside. "Only you can touch the relic. Anyone else would be consumed by it." The human approached slowly. His heart pounded with fear. He reached out his hand toward the relic. The threads of light lifted around him like living strands drawn toward his touch. The moment his fingers brushed the relic, the chamber exploded with blinding light. The runes on the walls shone brightly. The ground shook. The roots trembled. The human fell to his knees as waves of memories surged through him. He stood again on the battlefield from his visions. He saw himself fighting endless shadows. He saw the spirit woman, Nimrodel, beside him, singing light into the world. Her voice was the melody of life, her presence the warmth of dawn. She placed the relic into his hands and said, "Guard it. Guard the last light. If it falls, all will fall. Then he saw his final moments, the shadows overwhelming him, the spirit crying out, her light shattering his soul, fading, a child with golden hair. Reaching for him as everything turned dark, the vision broke. The human gasped, but the relic in his hands did not fade. It glowed brighter, it wrapped around him like armor made of pure light, the elder shielded. His eyes, it has awakened. The guardian has returned. The human tried to stand, but the weight of the visions pressed on his shoulders. He felt stronger. But he also felt the shadows stirring outside the chamber. He heard distant roars, branches cracking, a forest crying again. The elder lifted his staff. You must claim your full power before the shadow guardian returns. The relic only awakened the first part. The rest is sealed deeper within your soul. You must face what you were and accept what you must become. The human clenched the relic tightly. The light pulsed through his veins. He felt heat, strength, and fear. He looked at the elder. What must I do? The elder pointed to a deeper archway behind the pedestal. Enter the Hall of Echoes. There you will meet your past and fight the part of yourself you failed to protect. If you win, you will rise as the true guardian. If you lose, the shadows will claim you forever, and Lothlórien will fall. The human stepped toward the archway, the light in his hand, guiding his path. The forest fell silent. Even the chamber seemed to hold its breath as he crossed the threshold. Darkness wrapped around him. Not cold darkness, but heavy darkness, filled with voices, filled with memories, filled with sorrow. The last thing he heard was the whisper from the relic itself. You are not alone, you never were, and the door behind him closed. Darkness closed around the human as he stepped into the Hall of Echoes. There was no floor under his feet, no walls, no sky. Only endless shadows stretching in every direction. Like a forgotten world, trapped between time and memory, the relic in his hand glowed faintly. Its light pushed the darkness back, but only a little, as if the place itself resisted him. A whisper echoed around him, welcome back. Guardian of what once was, he looked forward and saw a figure forming from the mist. Not a monster, not a spirit, it was himself, but twisted, broken. Eyes hollow, armor cracked, light dimmed. This was the Shadow Guardian. The dark reflection born from the moment he fell in his past life. The reflection stepped closer. Its voice carried pain, anger, and despair. You abandoned the light, you left her to die. You let the shadows win. The human felt the accusation stab his heart. Memories flashed through his mind. Nimrodel calling for help. The child reaching out, the relic slipping from his grasp. The shadows consuming everything. He shook his head. I did not abandon anyone, I died. I tried to save them. The reflection glared. Trying is failure when the world depends on you. You failed once, you will fail again. The hall trembled. The darkness pulsed like a living storm. The reflection raised a hand, and the shadows rose like claws. They slashed toward the human. But the relic burst with golden light, blocking the attack. The reflection hissed, you do not deserve that light. The human tightened his grip. This light is not mine, it was given to me to protect. I will not run from it again. The reflection circled him like a predator. Then fight me. Fight your doubt, fight your fear. Fight the part of you that broke. The human braced himself. The reflection attacked with blinding speed. Shadows whipped across the hall. Each strike felt like a memory of failure. Each blow carried voices of the past. You were too weak, you were too slow, you were unworthy. The human stumbled, the relic dimmed. The shadows grew thicker. The reflection choked him with darkness. Say it. Say you cannot save anyone. The human fell to his knees. His vision blurred. He heard Nimrod's voice, soft, broken, fading. Help me. Something inside him snapped. Not with fear, not with despair, with strength, he rose to his feet. The relic blazed with light that shook the entire hall. I am not that broken soul anymore. I will not fail again. Golden light exploded from his body. The darkness recoiled. The reflection screamed as cracks of light spread across its twisted form, but it did not vanish. It attacked again, more desperate, more furious. You are nothing without me. You are my failure. The human stood firm. Then he lowered his weapon. He did not strike. He reached out his hand. The Shadow Guardian froze. Confused, the human spoke gently. "You are not my enemy. You are my pain, my fear, my guilt, but you are still me." The reflection trembled. Its form flickered. The human stepped closer. "You fought alone. You died alone. You carried the burden I could not remember. I forgive you." The hall shook. The reflection dropped. Its weapon light spread through its cracked armor. Its face softened. For the first time it looked peaceful. "You finally understand," it whispered, and with that the reflection dissolved into pure light. The shadows faded. The darkness collapsed. The relic glowed brighter than ever before, its final seal broken. The human stood alone in the silent hall, but he no longer felt empty. He felt whole. A door of living light opened before him. He stepped through and found himself back in the golden forest, but everything had changed. The trees shook violently. The sky burned with shadow. A dark host rose at the border of Lothlórien. Creatures of smoke and despair marched toward the sacred woods. The elves gathered with fear in their eyes. Their arrows shook, their swords trembled. The queen stood at the front. When she saw the human, her breath caught. "You did it. You reclaimed the guardian soul." The shadows roared and charged. The elves braced for the final battle. But the human stepped forward alone. The relic floated above his hand, shining like a new sun. The forest bowed its branches. The air hummed. The trees whispered a single word. "Guardian." The shadows struck, but the human raised his hand. A wave of golden light burst from him. The ground shook. The sky split. The shadows screamed as the light tore through them like dawn tearing through night. When the blaze faded, the dark host was gone. The forest stood quiet. The elves fell to their knees. The queen bowed her head. Dawn rose over Lothlórien, a dawn brighter than any before. Because the guardian had returned, not as a memory, not as a broken soul, but as the protector the land had waited for across countless ages, and the forest whispered, "The light will not fade again."